So, this said, I'm very happy to introduce you our keynote speakers for this afternoon, Gail Williams and Mike Harris. Gail Williams is currently the head of Caritas St. Joseph's, the agency for those with intellectual and physical disabilities in the Diocese of Westminster in the UK. Caritas St. Joseph's runs 3 lifelong centers for adults with intellectual and physical disabilities. They also support the 210 parishes in the diocese to be more inclusive and open to those who are on the margins of their parishes. They assist them with sacramental preparations in symbol and signs, enhancing the skills of catechists by teaching symbolic catechesis and training priests in inclusive and special liturgies. She has a lot of experience in safeguarding procedures from a practical perspective in all areas of parish and organizational life. And she has been involved in this work for almost 20 years. And the second keynote speaker, who has also great experience in the field, is Mike Harris, who is a special educational needs and social communication specialist, kinetic specialist, Makaton language program senior tutor, and child and adult professional advocate. Mike began his career working in statutory day services for adults with learning disabilities for 10 years as a specialist day service officer for the London Borough of Sutton. Then, 15 years in children's specialist services in the London Borough of Southwark as a communication specialist and consultant. Mike works for, advises, and supports many agencies and organizations, including pontifical dicasteries, in his capacity as a disability consultant and practitioner. He has been quoted on 2 continents and was the communication advisor working on the research project Everybody Has a Story, and other publications and resources created by the Kairos Forum in the UK, directed by Christina Cangemi. So indeed, I think we will have much to learn. I have been just reminded that we have time until 4 for the coffee breaks, and then there will be the last working groups. So please, Gail, I know you will be starting, so take place.
Thank you, Alessandra. Is that on? It's on, okay. I need to speak a bit louder. I apologise to the interpreters. My husband says I speak at the rate of a submachine gun firing, so I apologise for that. And my London accent apparently is not easy to follow, so again, I apologise for that. But today I'll be talking to you from my own personal experience of managing environments in the UK, using our legislation and support. We'll look at the 3 areas that my organisation has experience in: parish life, lifelong learning centre activity, and family life. Safeguarding is everyone's responsibility. When it comes to large organisations such as mine, consistency is key. There needs to be a firm plan, and that plan will be implemented in all situations, no matter who is involved. Nowhere is this more important than our parishes, schools, and agencies where we serve the most vulnerable in society. Safeguarding is an instinct and a culture. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. The following areas are the most common we have come across in our work. We're all motivated by our faith, to include all those that are held at the margins of our society. We must be wary, however, that we keep everyone safe. In bringing together everyone, we must ensure that we start at the stage of the most vulnerable, for if it is safe for them, then it is safe for everyone. I'm going to ask you a question. My pyramid of knowledge. Where are you? Do you not really get the grasp of safeguarding? Do you not understand the processes you need to put in place? Are you at the medium stage, where you feel quite comfortable with safeguarding? Or are you very confident that you could safeguard an organisation such as mine? I currently employ 47 staff. I asked them this question at the start of my recent safeguarding training. 7% felt they had a low understanding, despite working in the area for 12 years or more. 68% said they had a medium understanding and were quite confident. 15% said they were great. They knew everything. They were really confident. The burning question each one of those groups asked was, is it really my responsibility? Do I need to take responsibility? So the different groups that we come across. The parish. These are the most difficult gatherings as we never know who's going to attend, who they will bring. It's not possible to legislate attendance at Mass, for instance, if it's 1,000 or more. One of our parishes has 4,500 Mass attendants every week. The safeguarding emphasis here will be on the environmental factors, those that we can control. Plans need to be solid. If you have a diocesan plan, follow that here. Safeguarding representation is essential to this environment. That person must not only be well trained, but enriched and valued. We must be careful here on the type of person that we appoint. We must ensure they do not have a vision of the parish as they would want it, but as Jesus would want it. Safeguarding is the most vulnerable first, and you work your way backwards. For instance, I've been the special needs catechist at my parish for 25 years, and nobody ever asked me if I was going to be alone in the church with a priest and a child or a vulnerable adult. I, of course, volunteered the information, but I was never asked. That is because everyone fears safeguarding. This is the biggest barrier and is quite common to come across in the parishes. Safeguarding is an excellent resource if it's planned and executed positively. It's not to be feared, but embrace it. In an activity centre, it's easier to safeguard. We have terms and conditions, everyone signs them, everyone agrees to them. We know who's coming. The safeguarding approach is person-centred to the individuals and their needs, and the risk assessments are in place, and they're comfortable with the policies and procedures needed to safeguard them. Our safeguarding policy directly reflects my operational business continuity plan. In the family, you have a difficult and sensitive area of safeguarding. Those we serve are brought up in the culture of family first. The family environment is not always safe, and people are reluctant to talk about it in case they get their mum, their dad, their brother or sister, or uncle or aunt into trouble. Listening and observing is crucial here. Changes in behaviour, hygiene, and changes in clothing can be indications of abuse. Suddenly shying away from a key family member can also be a sign to look out for. Knowledge is key. Empathy and sensitivity ensures that you do not have a closing down of communication, which is so essential for safeguarding. For once, the UK makes it easier for us to legislate safeguarding. Making safeguarding personal was a government-backed research which looked at the area in the care of those who are vulnerable and yet have capacity. There are 6 principles of safeguarding. Empowerment. This has been missing in the past from legislation and guidelines. Keeping the vulnerable person informed and consult them as much as possible. This gives the person confidence in making their own decisions. Prevention. Stop issues occurring using foresight and plan. Identify the risks and take appropriate measures. Protection. This is the core act of giving the vulnerable person care and support when needed. This requires significant action and even prosecution of those involved in some cases. Proportionality. This is essential, especially when dealing with the family scenario. Overreaction or knee-jerk reactions are detrimental to all. Support and intervention needs to be carried out with the least amount of intrusion. Partnerships. Safeguarding is a communal process, collaborating with others, following the same plan. When the whole community are involved, neglect, abuse, and harm are less likely to occur. Accountability. Everyone needs to do their part whilst being led by a safeguarding representative. So the table shows you what advocacy might look like. On the left-hand side, as you look at it, are our 6 principles. On the right-hand side is how it might look to the person. Okay. Respect the right of the vulnerable adult who has the mental capacity to make their own decisions. They will make these decisions regarding their present and future circumstances, including that person's decision to remain in situations perceived by professionals or others to be risky or dangerous. In such cases, the details of the discussion and the course of action should be clearly recorded and stored. The vulnerable adult should be given information about the options to protect them from abuse. There is a responsibility to refer to the appropriate partner agency where there is a crime, an allegation involves staff or a paid carer, other vulnerable adults are at risk, or the alleged perpetrator is also a vulnerable adult. This is not as unusual as you may think. Where the vulnerable adult does not have the mental capacity to be able to make an informed choice, those conducting the investigation and planning their protection will take any decisions and actions necessary to safeguard them. These actions will be based on a judgment of what is in the best interest of the adult at risk and be informed wherever possible and appropriate by discussion with relatives. An independent professional advocate can be appointed. This can be a professional involved with the case, a counsel-appointed professional, a legal representative, such as a foster carer, or a privately appointed advocate. What does safeguarding look like in practice? We use the 4 R's. Recognise a potentially abusive situation, respond appropriately to it, record the information, and refer. Safe recruitment of employees and volunteers through our English DBS system, which is like an FBI check in America, and other practices including robust identification with ID, interviews and referees for both parties. Make the environment safe. Promote and implement good practice. Have your statutory policies and procedures and awareness in all safeguarding activities, including children and adults at risk, within the parish and any of your settings. Everyone thinks that safeguarding does not involve your policies and procedures. You could not be more wrong. Foster a culture of safeguarding. Educate the community, your staff and volunteers through training using online and sensory safeguarding modules, leaflets and brochures. Raise awareness in safeguarding matters regularly, and remember, safeguarding is everyone's responsibility. Always listen with empathy. Approach the situation in a non-judgmental manner. You are not the police. Your role is not the investigator. Record the account as neutrally and factually as possible without using your own personal opinions or biases. Share the concerns with the central safeguarding team as soon as possible. Avoid talking to the parish priest or team about it if they have been indicated as being the alleged perpetrator. Always tell the person what you are going to do with their information. Remember that protection of a person from immediate harm, an active police investigation, a significant risk of suicide, or significant risk of harm to a third party overrides confidentiality in all cases. Never share any third-party data from personal accounts for this use, as you'll be contravening GDPR laws. How do we get this communicated? We give our people a voice. We use resources. We use things that they understand. We know. We get to know them. We get to know how they communicate. Effective communication. Empathy is at the heart of all of this. Collaboration. Use the partnerships that you collaborate with. A working team working together to the same goal. We always say in England, teamwork makes the dream work. Look, listen, record, and report. Use empathy, belief, honesty, and openness. Safeguard your environment. As I said, policies are an essential part of safeguarding. Creating a safe environment means risk assessing all activities and events that take place across the diocese, sites and parishes, with a particular safeguarding focus for activities and events including young children, young people and adults at risk. Safeguarding and the practice of love, honesty, respect, support and accountability are essential parts of our Catholic ministry and mission. Every human being has a value in which we acknowledge as coming directly from God's creation of us, in his own image and likeness. We believe, therefore, that all people should be valued, supported, and protected from harm. We recognise the personal dignity and rights of adults at risk towards whom the Church has a special responsibility. The Catholic Church and its individual members will undertake appropriate steps to maintain a safe environment for all by practicing fully and positively Christ's ministry towards children, young people and adults, and responding sensitively and compassionately to their needs in order to keep them safe from harm. This is demonstrated by the provision of carefully planned activities for all groups, caring for those hurt by abuse, and robustly managing and ministering to those who have caused harm. In addition to the activities as laid out in the Safeguarding Adults procedure, the following applies. Internet and other ICT tools can involve indecent images of children, and there are concerns about a child being groomed via the internet to a mobile phone. An immediate referral must be made to the police and the social services. All staff members, agencies, contractors, volunteers, other professionals and partners involved in delivering services to children, young people and adults at risk must observe the diocesan computer, internet and email policy. In photography, videos and other creative arts, potential for photos to be misused is quite large. You must remain sensitive to any child, young person or adult at risk who appears uncomfortable. Using images of children for publicity purposes will require the appropriate consent of the individual concerned and their legal guardian. Images should not be displayed on websites, in publications or in a public place without this consent. When used, avoid naming the person. Retain appropriately. Safeguard your storage. How do we make the parish a safe environment? Risk assessment. Make sure you have your risk assessment, safeguarding and health and safety policies in place. A risk assessment is a written evaluation of what might cause harm to the people and the steps taken to prevent that harm. When planning activities, a risk assessment for the activity should be completed and brought to the attention of all staff, who should also be made aware of their areas of responsibility. Relevant health and safety procedures and safeguarding procedures. If off-site, the risk assessment travels with the group. Risk assessment should be completed by somebody with the requisite knowledge and skills during the planning stage of an activity or event and approved by the safeguarding representative. everyone, even the people that you are safeguarding, needs to contribute to this. How would you like me to keep you safe? Risk assessments for regular or ongoing activities should be reviewed and updated in accordance with diocesan, congregational, or organisational policy and procedure. Review the risk assessment after set intervals, which then will feed into an annual cycle of review. Environmental factors must be considered throughout the risk assessment, such as whether the activity takes place indoors or outdoors, the time of day, the time of year, the weather. In England, we are currently experiencing 50 days of rain in our summer, and other natural phenomena. There should also be information and guidance which includes a safer environment, how to report a concern, and a robust induction pack. Information and guidance for other users of this site when you're planning an activity is essential. Do they have separate spaces? Are they recording information that is not appropriate for them? Are they conducting themselves in an appropriate manner? Safeguarding is everybody's responsibility. In our activity centre, we have many lifelong learning courses. I said to my boss, guess what? He said, what, Gail? I said, I am going to give 6 autistic men that don't speak drills, and I'm going to teach them how to make garden furniture. Oh, he says. So, that risk assessment is one of our most robust risk assessment, because that's how we get insured, and we keep my boss from visiting far too often. So, you know who's coming, and policies and procedures are in place to protect those who attend. These should include behavioural, environmental, safer recruitment, and infectious diseases. Can be in several forms: care plans, medical plans, needs assessments. Create your risk assessment for delivery. Who's coming? Is anybody in a wheelchair? Are they deaf? Will they hear the fire alarm? Will they be triggered by a sound that's sudden? Are all my signs in pictorial and symbol form as well as in writing? Make sure all your group profiles are up to date. Re-enroll every year whether or not you think it's necessary. You never know what information might sneak onto there that you need to be aware of. Organic documents such as these need updating regularly. The classroom risk assessment, especially in carpentry, ceramics, because we also have a kiln that fires at 1200 degrees, and woodwork, are essential for your insurances. A part of this is making sure the tools are well cared for and maintained. We don't just hand them the tools and say, get on with it, I promise. We teach them what each tool is for, how to use it safely, how to take care and maintain it. They are tested regularly to make sure they understand what's expected of them. These records need to be kept for health and safety purposes. In forestry wire, that's a nice dangerous one. Okay, take your finger off like that, it will. Any specialist equipment like that, students are taught how to use it safely and maintain it. The points to consider here: your safeguarding procedures. What do I need to read? Who is my reporting line? Fire, exits, evacuation points. Are they well lit and signed? Can everybody understand the fire procedures? Do we have red flashing lights in all of the rooms for those that are deaf? Do we have a soft, gentle voice that tells you in a firm way to leave the building? When you're looking at facilities for delivery, proximity to toilets, kitchens, and dining rooms are essential. Do we share these spaces with anybody? How do we identify a different group or a different person? We all wear badges with our names on. So if somebody is in an area, doesn't have their name badge on, then we know they're not meant to be there. Staff considerations. We look at the ratios in the classroom. Do we have essential cover for illness? Are unforeseen issues arising? Do we have things in place to deal with them? Are there risks in the space I'm delivering in? Is it light enough? Is the activity at night? How I need to look after my own personal safety? Who will I be working with? Are there measures in place that I'm confident with? Am I going to be left on my own at all? In other areas of the centres, we hold scheme of work and lesson plans, involve all of these factors. Robust health and safety guidelines are available in advance, so all are aware of any changes or triggers from the students. Necessary forms are available and given to any cover in both picture and reading. We use a cloud-based system such as Salesforce with restricted access so that everyone's information is kept safe but is accessible. We have a robust code of conduct for staff and volunteers, behaviour expectations, and handbooks which they can refer to in difficulty. The family is much harder as there is no approach or oversight of family dynamics. However, it's not impossible. Vigilance is key. Get to know the people that come to your parish, to your centre. Look for changes in dress, hygiene and behaviour in groups or one-to-one with different carers. Your staff are your stars in all of your areas, and they need to feel valued and cared for. They need to be protected as well as those that you serve. They need to feel valued, cared for, and protected within any setting. In the parish, the staff here are usually quite a varied group, from the paid members to the volunteer members. All need to be recruited safely, provided with professional training, and supported and mentored to understand the different situations that they may find themselves in. There should always be a safeguarding representative present at all events, monitoring and supporting the people carrying out their duties. Strong HR, safeguarding and volunteer policies will also help to protect staff and volunteers and help them and you build a culture of good safeguarding in a positive and welcoming way. Risk assessments are usually in a more general form here and building and environmentally led. GDPR is touched on here, but in a much more general form, as is consent. In the activity centres that we run, the staff and volunteers here are always safely recruited and do not vary due to ratios and commitments. The policies still need to be in place, but with a much more prescriptive approach due to the environment that they operate in. GDPR will also be included here. Risk assessments are detailed and performed not only as an overarching exercise, but drilled down to separate courses, excursions, and individual risk assessments. These are usually care plans or learning from incidents. We make sure that we give our staff enrichment and retreats, space for them. We offer general services such as occupational health referrals and counselling. Your volunteers are the gift to your communities. All areas are touched by volunteers, some in a formal way and some in an informal way. No parish will thrive without the goodwill of your communities. Ownership by the people is key here. Those on the margins will be included in the community if they are active participants. In our experience, this means you will have people with intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, and the older community as part of the liturgy and ministries of the parish. As this function is based on goodwill, it's more difficult to get people to understand safeguarding and the needs of the people they are supporting, but it can be done. A clear embedding of safe recruitment and enrichment that encompasses all aspects of the ministries. If people feel supported, respected, and loved, then the community will remain strong and will be sustainable. In the activity setting, it's much easier for volunteers to work here. Policies and procedures are in place to support them. Again, they need to feel loved and supported, so regular enrichment is needed. Treat them as you would your staff. Give them professional training. Listen to them when they come to you with problems. Those of you, who, as I do, employ people with intellectual and physical disabilities, we use a sensory approach to safeguarding. We do this by talking them through a series of scenarios, and we ask them to thumbs up if they agree or thumbs down if they don't. Is it good? Is it bad? We have had a lot of success using this type of training for all members of staff. In the family, the volunteers here are mostly other family members, which means they are completely aware of any triggers and they're aware of safety and of limits of the person that they support. The key here is to listen to how they communicate and interact with others whilst they are with their family member. Red flags can be seen by others. Procedures and vigilance in all of the above settings will help this family be more supported and be kept safe. Everyone said there's been an issue. How do we get people to understand? What communication tools do we use? Well, here we go. We use BSL. A lot of our older members who have intellectual disability are also deaf. So they learnt how to be part of society at a deaf school. We use Makaton for those that went to our special schools because that is the language program that our special schools use. We have a Makaton sign that we change every week so that everybody, no matter who you are, will know what the sign of the week is, and you can practice together. All of our signs, as I said, are in widget, as you can see here. We use Books Beyond Words in our book club. We have a book club every Wednesday. We had a gentleman come to us who speaks Farsi at home. His daughter would say, "Happy, mummy, daddy," and he wanted her to learn more English. But of course she can't read. So we use Books Beyond Words to teach her how to sentence structure and how to make her own book about her life and what she wanted. And now she happily greets you with a full sentence. She tells you how she's feeling, and she's been doing that more at home, so they're really pleased. So these methods really do work. And we use the books along with our widget feelings cards. Are you happy? Are you sad? Yes or no? So we empower those we serve by giving them these tools and resources for expression. We provide an effective response in tandem with those we serve. We make safeguarding personal. We give them the choice how the process goes for them, even choosing not to report an incident. We always say a problem shared is a problem halved, and sometimes that's all the person wants to be listened to. How we do it. We use forms and regulatory pathways like everybody else, but we do it in more than one method of communication. Who do we involve? Well, depending on the situation, the selection of individuals involved will greatly differ from case to case. How are we going to make sure that everything is safe? Best practice safeguarding begins with planning. How many roles do you need to be safe? How do we do a robust induction? Have we got our risk assessments ready? If you're delivering the course, event, or activity, have you thought about the safer environmental considerations and the safe practices that run through your policies and procedures? Do you have risk management in place, dealing with issues as they arise, reporting concerns, and constantly revising procedures and practices? Review. What worked, what didn't? Review is the best practice. You can write as many policies as you like. If your method does not work, you must change it. And you must not be scared to change it. You have to be confident that you are doing the best for the people that you serve. We use the following solutions to ensure that we have a robust safeguarding policy. Training. Skills, development, coaching, mentoring, or essential parts of training. Collaborative and joint approaches. You take one cock out of that machine and it will not turn. Effective communication, teamwork, connection, dialogue, speaking, discussion, networking, all of these are effective communication. and the use of multimodal communication, which Mike will touch on later in our speech. Another important aspect to remember is your perspective. It's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. In the parish, the community will see dangers from an individual perspective, and this can't be helped. But consistency is important, and encouragement to be more outward-facing will ensure a more joined-up approach. In the centre, the perspective here will always be centred on those we serve. In the family, the perspective will come from a place of love and fear. Love for their family member, but fear of the outside. Who are they going to meet at this parish meeting, at this mass, at this activity centre? They will always want their family to be front and centre of the heart of what you do, because their family is the most important thing to them. Here you may also witness love that can be cruel, vindictive, and manipulative, causing behaviour that attracts attention back to them. This is more difficult to deal with, but can be supported with change, support, and counselling. How do we manage when something happens? How do we manage? We handle the situation correctly, from disclosure to discovery to post-trauma handling. We use counselling. We make sure that the person who feels in danger has an exit strategy so that they can feel safe again. We use specialist communication methods that I've said before: signing, widgets, pictures, symbols, and multimodal communication. Well, I hope you've all been listening, because I want to know where you are now. Is anybody still feeling in the low bracket, where you feel unsure about how you can safeguard your activities or your centre or your parish? Anybody in the comfortable? Nobody's in the low thing. Anyone in the medium or comfortable zone now? Anybody in the confident zone? You're ready to go home and sort it out. That's what we wanted. Again, though, the burning question at the end of this training for my staff was, but Gail, just whose responsibility is it? And I'm telling you, it's everyone's. So I'm going to pass over to Mike now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Buongiorno. Good afternoon, everyone. So, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. Sorry? I need to be closer to the mic. Okay. I want to stay here. There's a reason for this, and it'll all come out in the wash. So just bear with me. Can you hear me now okay? No?
Go over there to the podium. Stop being silly.
Is that better? Lovely. Okay. There was a reason I wanted to stay there, but we'll deal with that in a second. So I so wanted to stand up here and say friends, Romans and countrymen, but I was forbidden from doing that. Okay. Lovely. So I would like to start by just saying that pro rata, relative to the common populace, a disproportionately high number of children and adults with a cognitive disability and or autistic spectrum conditions are the victims of abuse situations in the UK. They are much more likely to be the targets and victims of abuse. And if that is happening in the UK, you can be sure that that is mirrored around the world. The premise, the ability to communicate and to understand communication, is the foundation on which all we attempt to achieve in life rests. If we are without it, or lacking in respect of our communication skills, we are often lost, further disabled, and often socially abandoned in society to a greater or lesser degree. It is still assumed by many that persons that present with a more moderate to profound cognitive disability, and I'm also going to include autistic spectrum conditions when I use the word cognitive disability. Thumbs up if you're cool with that. It keeps me saying, I don't have to say the same thing time and time again. Thank you very much for that, friends and colleagues. So it is still assumed by many that persons that present with more moderate and profound cognitive disability are unable to communicate or understand communication. So it doesn't happen. Many of these people are unintentionally kept locked in a void of little or no communication by their hopefully and usually well-meaning interactors. These groups of people are then denied much of the benefits of social context communication and what this brings to us in life. For example, independence, choice, empowerment, opinion, forming relationships, and everything else that communication brings to us. Just have a little think about that. I think sometimes we, and when I use the terms we and us, that's a very royal we and us, just not the people within this room. Yeah. And of course, in the context of this conference, they lack the ability to understand aspects of personal safeguarding context and keep themselves safe and be able to communicate safeguarding issues if the need unfortunately arises. The mainly global view that many people with a cognitive disability are unable to communicate or understand communication is a fallacy and an entirely extrinsic disabling factor that is imposed by us, their interactors. So it's nothing to do with the perceived ability or lack of ability of the person concerned. And there's some very understandable, although not so justifiable, reasons for this. Let's just have a little look at a few. Many of us are still wary of people with a cognitive disability. We are not confident to interact with these people because they are perceived as being different. We are worried that we may in some way harm, hurt, or upset the person concerned. We are not skilled or confident in communicating with these people. This is the big one. Assumptions. This is the dangerous one. And with this, I'm going to link a few words in respect of capacity that were mentioned by Baroness Sheila Hollins at the start of this conference. Very often, because a person is disabled in their communication skills, they are perceived of lacking understanding, they're lacking capacity to make important decisions and choices in respect of their life and the ongoing well-being of them in their life. We quite often naturally judge a person via their communication skills. Think about it. When you meet someone in the first instance, we make a lot of conscious and subconscious decisions in respect to that person, and a lot of that is made in respect of how they communicate initially. Not one person on planet Earth will understand communication or be able to communicate unless it is presented in a way that that person understands and uses. So I would just like to use my Tokyo analogy. So if you were suddenly to sort of beam me up, as in Star Trek, and drop me in an urban community in the middle of Japan, I would be totally lost and disabled in respect of my community. I can't speak a word of Japanese, nor can I understand a word of Japanese, so I will be immediately disabled in respect of my communication skills. While we think about human communication, let's agree that most neurotypical people can express themselves and receptively understand what is being communicated to them. A two-way street, if you like, although it's a bit of a fact that even for us neurotypical, mainstream, however we refer to ourselves, our ability to express ourselves is slightly less than our ability to understand communication, because that's slightly out of kilter. But of course, for people with a communication disability and for people with cognitive disability, that difference can be way out of kilter. It never fails to amaze me when I'm teaching and when I'm training support workers and other professionals, and they quite often will say, Fred, who I work with, understands every single solitary word that I say. And I say, how do you know that? And they'll say, well, because, I'll ask him to do something. We might be doing living skills in the kitchen or something like that, and we'll be sort of talking about making a slice of toast. And I say, right, can you go and get the bread, get the butter, get the knives, put the grill on, etc.? No problem at all. Tasks, no problem at all. And then I say, how does he communicate to you? And they'll say, he can't. And I think, wow. Yeah? Well, that's good, isn't it? And that's probably because Fred has not had the opportunity to be supported, shown, taught some communication skills that he can use. Quite often people say, oh, we signed to Florence, and she's really good. She really understands this signing carry on. And I say, does she ever sign back? No, she can't. Have you ever thought of using another communication mode with her? No. Just a few facts that you might know already. If you do, then I humbly apologise in respect of preaching to the already converted. Yeah? So the big underlying message here is that what we need to do is use the correct communication tools and methods with people that present with a cognitive disability. Now get into those facts. Almost exclusively, all children are much more what we call visual, tactile, kinesthetic learners than they are auditory learners. That means that almost exclusively children will embed, understand, learn information to include communication if it is offered in ways that are touchy-feely, movie-aroundy, let me see it and let me get in there and have a go. Did I explain that all right for a communication specialist? Good, lovely. Now, if that child then goes on to present with a cognitive disability or sits on the autistic continuum somewhere, they will remain a visual, tactile, kinesthetic learner into adulthood. So, any communication and or information that we can present or support using visual methods is much more likely to be successful. And you've seen a hint of that from my lovely friend and colleague, Gail, when she was going through some of her presentation up there. It is the visual information that is going through the eyes that will be most successful for these children and adults, if that visual information is used in tandem with auditory information, speech. It aids the understanding and learning of, when I'm talking about the visual information, I'm talking about sign in this particular respect. I probably didn't make that clear a little earlier on. I'm just hoping and praying I've got some time to have a go with you a little bit with some signing in a minute. So, what happens here if we're supporting our verbal communication with manual sign? This has been proven to start verbal and vocal attempts, to start speech, and then on with the continued use of these formal communication skills and methods to promote the development of language skills, so the use of communication at a more expressive, a more comprehensive level. To help individuals improve the intelligibility of the speech skills they may already have and to repair gaps in language. Now, I would like to tell you a quick story from personal experience. When I worked as a specialist for the London Borough of Southwark, I did a lot of work with parents of disabled children. And I will never forget that one morning, I'd hardly got into the office on a Monday morning, still had my coat on, hadn't had my first cup of coffee, and the old phone's ringing away as soon as I get in. So I think, oh, who's that first thing in the morning? It's going to be one of those days. So I answered the phone, and it was a lady by the name of Ola. And Ola was the mother of Emmanuel. Now, when I first started working with Ola and Emmanuel, he was 5 years old. He was on the more profound end of the autistic continuum and was non-verbal. Is that okay? That's not sort of ringing too much, is it? So I had done quite a lot of work with Ola in respect of using Makaton. I'm got a language program. I'm going to hopefully go into a little bit of detail about that a little later on. Not a lot, but just to sort of sow the seeds, if you like. which is a language program, a multimodal language program that's very, very famous in the United Kingdom and is used in over 50 countries worldwide. And I would welcome the opportunity to tell any of you how that works, but we probably might not have time for that right now. That might have to be post-session. Yeah? And I'd also been doing some ongoing work with the special school that he worked off in the borough. And she phoned me in floods of tears. I said, in God's name, what is wrong, Ola? And she said, Mike, I wanted to tell you first that Emmanuel had called me mum for the first time in the supermarket yesterday. I went, wow, well done. It's starting to pay off. So that's the news that she wanted to give me. I then, some time after that, caught up with Ola in our Children's Developmental Services in Sunshine House in Camberwell in London. I was in reception for a meeting or something like that, and she was there, sitting there. And Emmanuel, I think, was in the bubble pond up the end in the little play section. And I said, Ola, how are you? And she said, Mike, we're fine. I said, how's my little friend Emmanuel? And she said, Mike, I cannot shut him up. So what she had proved is with that stalwart, Trojan, ongoing, never giving up process of using these specialist communication skills, not only had Emmanuel started speaking, but he started to develop language skills. And this situation is proven time and time again by many research projects that go right the way back to the 1980s. If you're interested in any of that, please contact me. So that's the story of Emmanuel. Up to 80%, it's 50, the official sort of figures, if you like, is 50 to 80%. And it's much more likely to be up near 80% of human communication is non-verbal. If we also take into account how we use words, but not the word itself. Incidentally, scientists are now promoting that up to 93% of human communication is non-verbal. 93%. Wow! If we take into account how we use words, intonation, inflection, pitch, volume, etc., that we use when we speak, and which give and lend meaning to the spoken word. The actual word itself, bare and naked, accounts for only 7% of our communication. And here is my analogy. Now, in my office, when I had one in the London Borough of Southwark, I used to do a lot of joint working with social workers, social practitioners, so we'd be sharing cases. And I might get one of those social workers come into my office and give me an update on a case that we're joint working. And I would go, great. The same situation in the afternoon, another social practitioner might come into the office and give me an update on a case that we're joint working, but this time I go, great. Same word to entirely different social context meanings because of the way I used it. Now, this is where I would like to start to introduce you to to sell you the concept of multimodal communication practice. Now, very, very quickly, and I do feel that I'm just sowing seeds at the moment that hopefully that we can grow together for the future to take this whole situation forward. Multimodal communication practice is using a range of different communication tools or methods to communicate, to promote and support communication in those that have specialist and or complex communication needs. And in my world, that does not just include people with a cognitive disability and or in the autistic continuum. Can't bore you with this now, but there's lots of mainstream users of these forms of communication that are using this language program for the development of literacy skills and learning English as an alternative language where it is used at its most complex level. That's another day. Now, when we look at these modes, these ways, if you like, it's like having a virtual tool bag of multimodal communication tools. And in your multimodal communication bag, you've got a little range of different ways of communicating, if you like, different tools. And each one of these methods, which I'll quickly go through in a second, looks at communication through a slightly different window. Each one of these modes is like a very well-trained member of an elite military team, if I can use that analogy. Each one a specialist in its own right, but they work together, they work as one. Now, in our multimodal communication toolbar, we have speech. Whatever language we're communicating in, speech is our prime mode of communication. But of course it does elude many people. But we must always speak. It's the first golden rule. We sign. The second most naturalistic form of human communication is sign. Gesture. And when we look at sign languages, what you have there basically is formal gestures with rules and conventions, just like spoken languages. But of course, signing. Now, these two are what are called dynamic forms of communication. Whatever you've said, whatever you've signed, it's gone. It's disappeared into the ether. So we need certain cognitive skills to be able to hang on to dynamic forms of communication. Then we start to move into what we call static forms of communication. Now, static forms of communication, I've got up there, as you can see, the first black bullet point, is formal symbol vocabularies. Now, thank you. So, throughout some of the recent presentation, you've seen these symbols, yes? Which have been used to just give you a quick hit in respect of what that overall piece of information is all about. Now, when we use these, the technical name for these is symbol-supported text. And the blue sky thinking is that our guys will use the symbol to learn, recognise and or remember the word. Some will be able to do that and never have to use the symbol again. Some will have to use the symbol as a reminder, a bridge to get to the word. Some will never read a word in their life, but might be able to manipulate these symbols to a very high linguistic level. It's amazing. Yeah? So this is called widget rebus. Some of you will know that. This is a very, very well used, certainly in the United Kingdom, and is used in other countries as well, symbol vocabulary. Symbols are always used, unless you've got a sound rationale, with text. But when we are using text in a special needs arena, we need to be careful with font styles and things like that. How many of you use photographs when you're communicating with your folks? Yeah. So we know that photographs are very powerful communication tools. They're what I call, in the best sense and the politest sense, a one-hit wonder. You see a photograph, bang. If it's an entrance to perhaps the cinema or the theatre or the leisure centre that you go to every week, you see that, whack, a whole load of information comes into your mind. You know what you're possibly going to be doing in there. You'll remember what the inside is like, perhaps what member of staffs, who members of staff are, etc., what you're going to do there. Objects. How many of you have used objects to communicate, where you've offered someone a cup to ask them if they want a drink, or they've picked up that cup and come to you to ask you for a drink? Have you done that before now? Some hands going up there. So when objects are used in this sense, they are referred to formally as objects of reference, and they can be quite formal. You can have the same objects in various settings so that a person that uses this form of communication has got the same communication tools wherever they go. Excellent. So I think I've burnt my time up there. I did have a little situation where we could have had a go at a few signs and just have a go at this Macathon, but have I still got 10 minutes? You gave me a 5-minute warning. What are you doing, Collie? Ooh, we could have a go. Okay, very, very quickly, the Macathon language program. Thank you very much, Gail. I'll deal with that later. So, okay, who wants to have a go at this Macathon signing game? Do you want to have a little go? Why not? Now, one thing I'm going to say, Makaton originated in the United Kingdom. It's a unique multimodal language program. There's nothing else like it in the world. We've been going now for over 50 years, and there are many, many beneficiaries. Most importantly, what we call our core users is who it exists for, and of course, their interactors, which includes parents, professionals, support workers, volunteers, anyone who interacts with our folks. Yeah. Now, I haven't got much time to tell you about the Makaton language program, but one thing we're very well known for is our signing. Now, one thing I'm going to make absolutely clear at this moment in time, Makaton signing is not a sign language. A sign language can only be referred to as a sign language formally and properly if it exists and is used by a deaf community. Are you happy with that? Because quite often, it's not a sign system because it is an element, if you like, of a language program that is used in tandem with these methods here. Now, what we do, we adopt the concepts, the sign concepts, so the signs that match a spoken word in this particular instance, the English language. So these are British Sign Language signs. So I wouldn't want to see these used anywhere else. You would have to go to your own indigenous deaf cultural world and adopt the signs from that area. Have I explained that okay? Yeah? Good. So these are British Sign Language signs. This is just a little flavour, a little taste, if you like, of the Makaton language program, and just to live the dream, if you like. Now, signing in any way is an art, it's a craft, it's a skill, and you may not be surprised to understand that it has rules and conventions like spoken language, so we have to get it right. So one thing we always do in my world is we speak as we sign normally. You might choose your language structure depending on who you're communicating with, but we just speak normally. We don't sign every word that comes out of our mouth because a lot of what we say is called linguistic constructive grammar. It's words that do not carry any information but just stick the language together. So in the English language, just small words like is, am, are, they don't tell you anything. They just stick the language together. So what we do is sign the key words, the words that carry the information in the sentence. ICWs, information carrying words or key words. So let's just learn a few of these signs. Let's have a go at these signs. Watch me closely, copy me exactly. Watch hand shapes. Keep an eye on those thumbs, because thumbs have a life of their own, I can assure you of that. And because accurate hand shapes is very, very important in our world. Are you ready? Don't forget to speak and sign. So we start off with hello, which could equally be good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all right, watcha. Any way it's appropriate to greet that person. Goodbye. Come on, have a go. It's easy. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I mean, I'm no rocket scientist. If it was rocket science, I wouldn't be standing here. To come. To come. To go. How easy is it? When you see how easy it is, we can understand how well I can see how this worked with our folks. Yeah. To help. Now, this is a directional verb. Can I help you? Can you help me? Or can you please help Geraldo? You. I. And for the sake of ease, we're going to call that for me as well. Me. Food. And we can also use this for to eat. We do have the difference between nouns and verbs because it is a language program, but as a one-size-fits-all, I'm not worried about, we're not into language development here, we're into sort of bare bones. So we can use this for food and to eat. Drink. And while we'll use that for to drink as well. More. Now, when you do more, it's like putting something into a receptacle. You've got to have a put to put more in. You can't put more in a fist. More. Don't forget speak and sign. Don't fall at the first hurdle. You just got to remember it, and it's free. Toilet. An important one. Toilet. Well, some of these signs, I mean, as sign languages, you know, no secrets, as some of our friends and colleagues here, are invariable, they're ancient. They go back centuries, like our spoken communication. And some of the meanings of some of these signs are very obvious and have stories. And the way that this goes is originally it was toilet, and it was removing your braces before you hit the pot. So taking your braces off before you sort of like... It's the language of the eyes. It's very visual. Yeah, you know, our sort of like, you know, American friends would know that, and Australian. It's very, very, it's great fun. Lovely. How am I doing for time? 5? Yeah. Good. And you've got to have a good face. You cannot have a face, well, I usually say like a smack bottom, but I'm not going to say that here. Yeah. So you've got to have, you can't go, good. Good. Brilliant. How good is it? Fantastic. Marvellous. Delicious. Wow, exciting. So you've got to give it the drama, darlings. You've got to give it the theatre. No. And in context, that could be never, not, won't, didn't, ooh, I shouldn't, I wouldn't, I can't, and without. So, for instance, you could have coffee without sugar. I mean, that's not the actual sign for coffee, but it'll do because coffee's a drink if we're using signs on a one-size-fits-all basis. House. Home. Watch those thumbs there, Mrs. Doubtfire. Be careful. Please. Thank you. So thank you's barely off the chin. Please is much more down. To see. To look. To find. Depending on how you're using it. We are using these as a one-size-fits-all base. An important sign. Ill. So 2 little things down in front. Ill. Poorly. Not well. Sick. Worried. And if you're really worried or really concerned, you can do that with 2 hands. It's very easy, isn't it? Time? 2 minutes?
3 minutes, yes.
Okay. Do you want to try some sentences? Yeah. So let's try, do you want to eat or do you want to drink? Now, I would say to you, friends and colleagues, you could go anywhere on planet Earth, and if someone comes up to you and goes like that, you know they're going to ask you a question, yeah? Before they've opened their mouth and said their first word in their own language. Would you agree? So we would adopt the same sort of techniques when we use pronouns like that. Do you want a drink? Do you want to eat? Do you want to go home, for instance? This is well in the way, you know. Normally I wouldn't have... So let's have a go. Ready? Together? Do you want a drink? Do you want to eat? What about do you want a biscuit? If you've got the biscuit there, so you've got the object of reference, so the biscuits are on offer, they're on the table, would you just say, do you want a biscuit? Because you're going to eat it. Yeah? Do you see how the combined, just blending, that blended approach of using some different little... I probably wouldn't. No, I'd just stick. So the biscuits are there. Their eyes are going to be glued to those biscuits. You won't need to point to them. I can guarantee that. Lovely. What about please come here? Now, with determiners like here, there, this, that, we just simply pointed it. We just use natural gesture for that. So if I was going to say, please come here, it'd be as simple as that. Shall we have a go? Please come here. Lovely. And then I've got, please go there. Please, yeah, go there. And of course, the sign for go is going to go from them because they're doing the going, not you. The sign for go goes from whoever's doing the going. And now I've got, thank you for coming to see me. Have a go on your own. Go on, thank you. Can you remember the sign? Thank you. Don't forget to speak and sign, it helps. So we've got, thank you for coming to see me. How easy is that? What about, can I help you? Can I help you? Or can you help me? Or I might say, can you help him, for instance? So a directional verb. Shall we go to the restaurant, cafe, or bar? I bet you get that one right. Now, we haven't got restaurant, have we? We haven't got cafe, we've got bar. But we could say and sign, shall we haven't got we, but we've got you and I. Shall we go to the restaurant? Or bar, because you're probably going to have more than one. Yeah? Then we've got goodbye. It was nice to see you. And for nice, we've used the sign for good, because that can be good, nice, did you like that? Do you agree with that? Was that all right? So these signs in context have a broad brush use. Now, what about are you worried? We'll use that pronoun again for asking the question. Are you worried? And I'll just keep Maddie a little bit engaged there because I'm waiting for a reply. Yeah. I'm worried. Please help me. I feel ill. I need help, please, for instance. And that's just a little run round the block there. Hope you enjoyed that. Lovely. So, thank you very much for listening to me. Have we got the next slide?